Ladies and gentlemen, salam, good afternoon and warm welcome to all of you. My name is Janaab and I am honored to be your host today, as well as a proud member of Arbab-e-Qalam, Canada. Allow me to take a moment to share a little about our organization. Arbab-e-Qalam was originally founded by a renowned Urdu poet Shabnam Rumani in 1960s in Karachi, Pakistan. This vibrant organization became a hub for literary minds, fostering intellectual exchange and love for literature. 5 years ago, a group of passionate individuals and Urdu poets, Faisal, Azeem, Sikandar Abul Khair, Anwar Kazmi and myself decided to revive this beautiful legacy here in Canada. With the Toronto chapter of Arbab-e-Qalam, our vision has been to create an inclusive environment for literary dialogue, one where we can learn, share and grow together as literature enthusiasts. Over the year, we have organized a variety of programs inviting experts from different literary fields to enlighten us with their wisdom. Last year, our team was further strengthened with the addition of Dr. Shamim Azhar. He is not with us today, he is in Pakistan. Dr. Shamim Azhar, a seasoned poet and a scholar whose presence has encouraged us to take on even bigger endeavors. Today's event is one such initiative, a bilingual celebration of literature, bringing together the poetry of two major languages spoken in Toronto multicultural community, Urdu and English. We believe that these two poetic traditions, like two mighty rivers, can come together to create a vast sea of understanding, appreciation, and creativity. Through this program, we aim to build bridges between these languages and their writers, fostering a connection that transcends words and cultural boundaries. As part of this endeavor, we are honored to have a distinguished guest speaker with us today, Mr. Pétrik Meade. Welcome, sir. Pétrik is a celebrated poet and an advocate for the power of words, originally from Corner Books, Newfoundland, and now residing in Whitby. Pétrik is the author of Wooden Bridge, which is available, you can guys buy it. Wooden Bridge and other realms, his poems have been featured in various anthologies, literary journals and magazines, showcasing his depth and versatility as a writer. Pétrik is also an award recipient from the prestigious Edinburgh Writers in 2017. For over a decade, he has passionately led open mic events, encouraging writers to share their creative voices and express their true selves. His dedication to nurturing creativity and his love for storytelling have made him a beloved figure in the literary community. Currently, Pétrik is working on a novel titled Lemon Pies and several short stories inspired by his Newfoundland roots. We are thrilled to have him with us today and look forward to hearing his thoughts on how poetry bridges cultures and connects hearts. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me welcoming our esteemed guest, Mr. Pétrik Meade. Also, there is a charity organization with us today. RGW Refugee Girls Worldwide is a charitable organization that dedicated to addressing the specific needs of displaced women and girls. We believe that every girl has the right to education, safety and opportunities to reach her full potential, regardless of her background or circumstances. Their mission is to identify, protect and empower displaced girls. Their programs include scholarships, mentorships, education and support services that provide the necessary tools and resources for these girls to succeed and build a better future for themselves and their communities. And one more thing, that we have a lot of books and you can buy those books. It's $10 per book and all those monies goes to that charity. And now I would like to invite Faisal, Azeem, come to the stage and take the program from there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Juned. And thank you, everyone. Assalamu alaikum. Hello. Good afternoon. Thanks to all the friends who are here. Thank you, Lisa, for promoting the program as well. And thanks, Patrick. So finally, we are here. Okay. Like Juned said, we have refugee girls worldwide in the back, and it's a good opportunity to know more about them if you want to, and you can directly donate to them as well. They have a machine if you want to, as well as, of course, like Juned said, there are books. You can buy the books, and all the proceeds will go to the refugee girls worldwide. Okay, so today what we are going to do is, we are going to do something destructive and something constructive. We will try to break some walls and build some bridges. All right. So the plan, and again, we're not here for a very philosophical discussion. All we want is to have a frank discussion between the people who are writing maybe the same thing sometimes in different languages, and we don't have the opportunity to talk to each other as much as we should. So that's all what we are trying to do. We'll have a frank discussion. We will try to ask some questions. We will try to answer whatever questions you may have. So in today's program, we will initially I will start asking something. From Pétrik, I will ask some questions, and maybe I will try to explain something about our Urdu literature or poetry, I would rather say, situation, and then. Of course, we have so many learned people in our audience. We would like to hear from them, and we would like our audience. We always do that. We would like you to participate in the discussion. You can ask questions. You can comment on anything. So we will initially talk. We will make some bases, and then we'll start inviting anyone who wants to participate from the audience. And whoever wants, we will give the mic to you, and then you can say what you want to say. So, just one check. Raman, just keep checking the camera. First of all, I want to read a couplet from my father, Shabnam, first in Urdu, and then I will translate it. So it says, "Har ek zaban daricha hai khane jaan ka." So मुझको प्यार है दुनिया की सब ज़बानों से, which means every language is a soul to the every language is a window to the soul. So I love all the languages of the world. So when I read the first couplet, which we call Shair, you heard wow, 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 right? You don't hear that in your 40 nights. So that is one difference. So instead of clapping, sometimes we also clap. We used to avoid clapping in the past. Now clapping is also part of our Urdu 40 events. But normally we say when we hear something and we like it, we say wow. Okay, like wow. All right. So to begin with, I want to first of all acknowledge the way whenever I interact with you, and I see that you're always trying to see goodness in people, and you're always encouraging people to bring that out, that goodness out there. There was a research scholar, a very big name in Urdu literature. His name was Azeem, and he said, everyone who gets pleasure from writing poetry has the right to do so, and regardless of its quality, doesn't matter how good or bad it is, but no one has the right to stop him or her from doing that, right? And that's what I see when I see you, the last time when you brought those some people up and asked them to read it. So why not you start with telling us what your thoughts are, some of your thoughts about poetry in shaping a person or society or the cultural identity?
first of all, thank you very much. Oh, here we go. I'm not sure how to do that in Urdu. Okay. It's really, I am honored, I am touched, I am taken, and I think this is beautiful, that we can get together and share thoughts, kindness. I met Faisal a while back, and we chatted, we hugged, and Mehman, his son back there. And we, whether I be from Newfoundland or Canada or from Karachi or Zimbabwe or Yugoslavia, we are all in this together. We are. We're all one. So, as far as poetry goes, poetry is stillness, poetry is truth, poetry is tears, poetry is real. Many people, ladies and gentlemen, have been thrown in jail for speaking their poems, telling the truth, all over the world. Here, I'm sitting with a bottle of water and a book and paper and pen and this and all of you and food. Many people and many places cannot do that. So for poetry, poetry is honesty. Poetry is climbing out of a hole and say, this is where I need to be, this is where I want to be. And it's that's why I'm honored here today to come and just say my feelings about writing and or poetry, and just try to be honest. It is so hard to tell the truth. Because of technology, where we are today, family, religions, control, manipulation, but we still must put the pen to paper. You still must try to write. It's so, for this part, because if we go through life and say, I never tried, that's no good. That's why I'm honored to actually be here. I have some friends here today. And Lisa, she's from the Ontario Poetry Society, John, and my good buddy back to Jean, who have been to their own concerns, if you will, in life, and same as yourselves. And we write poetry maybe to get healed, maybe to honor what we are here on earth, and maybe sometimes smile and laugh. It's really important to get humor, laughter, if you can, or lightheartedness. I loved when you were applauding or commenting or laughing. That's magical. The spirit needs that in the sense of poetry, right? So I will take that away with me. I made notes here. It's so nice to see people smile over your couplets. That's beautiful. And lots of us are locked down. Family, once again, culture, society, and so on. So that's why I just want to start with. I grew up in Corner Brook, Newfoundland, by a brook. There's a picture here. That's the brook I grew up by, and it's a bridge, a wooden bridge. So it's like starting out in life on the little wooden bridges, and the other realms. Where do we go in life? And that's a poem. That's what poetry is where do we go and how are we in life? My daughter, by the way, that's her painting, and that's why I chose that. So that's not AI created.
We'll talk about that too.
Well, I think you're going to talk about it. Anyway, yeah, poetry is just coming out and saying, this is how I feel. Because if we worry about what other people are going to think, we'll never put it down. Whatever a poet is honesty, is openness, and sharing goodness as much as we have to support each other. That's why I said, whether you're from Zimbabwe or Yugoslavia or Karachi and so on, we're all in this together. And poetry, which has been around for thousands of years, it's probably been around for thousands of years because we know it works. We know that's our savior in a way. How we have different saviors, but that's one of our. That's our voice. That's our heart. That's our blood. So, thank you.
Thank you. So let's start with some basic basic things about the poetry, forms of poetry. For example, let me just say that we have in Urdu we have so many different forms of poetry. Some of the more popular ones I will just mention, and one is ghazal, like we talked about that before. which is the most popular, still most popular, although sometimes it becomes controversial for some friends. But ghazal, and then we have poem, it could be free verse, it could be blank verse, it's prose poem, also regular, or we call it paband. Among all those, and then there are many others. And then haiku is also one of the popular ones. You're right, haikus, right?
Haikus.
Haikus, so I know you like those. And we have Sikandar Hotel in the back, one of our members, and he likes writing haikus too. So, and there are many others, traditional ones. Can you talk about some of the popular genres in English, contemporary English poetry?
I will try, but I'm human like anybody else, and I can only give my point of view on. If you look around and you see a tree with a leaf falling, well, that's a poem. Or it's a worm under the tree surviving, looking for moisture, whatever. Those are poems. So where I'm going with this is nature has so many gifts. She's always there. She's our oxygen, literally. And she's there to guide us, to listen to us, to cry with us. So on that side of things, nature is always, whether you're writing Shakespeare or way back, or John Donne, or whomever, Keats and such, nature is there. So that's the main one we can draw from that I can think of. The climate crisis, look what's going on around our world. She is knocking so hard on nature. What are we doing to ourselves? I grew up in Newfoundland and islands surrounded by water. There's enough metal and chains and fishing gear to go around our earth 3 times. What are we doing to ourselves? And climate change is real. So I try to write from that perspective, and other poets do too, try to write from the perspective of Mother Nature knocking on our door. We burnt her down. We're trying, and she's listening to us, and says, can you guys help me? She's crying. That's our mother, right? This is all we have. There was a photo taken about 30 years ago, roughly a couple of million miles away, by a satellite spacecraft. We, Earth, is one amongst trillions. And we're the only one like this. We had to figure out how to make good. So, of Earth, and that's where I write poetry from her perspective, whether it be a spider, a whale, a dewdrop, but that's her. I'm only here for a short time, if you will. We all are. But she's pleading with us, can you help me? So this is where we had to come from. We can all go home with a book or 2 or 3, but if we don't listen to Mother Earth, why are we reading the books, right? We need, whether we, I think it was 1969, was it? You started over in Karachi?
67.
67? And the pleas and the poetry and all that came out of there. I read some of the material here that was translated into English from Urdu, and so this has been going on a long, long time. Rumi speaks of it, So in the sense of what can we write contemporarily and so on, she's the main one to speak on. Everything else is secondary. If you speak about AI or cars or the latest fad, or I think I forget the young lady's name, Swift was here recently.
Yes,
Swift girl.
Yeah.
Okay, so and look at the glory and the energy and the time and the insane money. Or some guy the other day gets like $300 million for hitting a baseball over a fence. And maybe in cricket, I don't know how much you get back home in cricket, but I'm sure there's some more pay. And so we're missing it.
Many of them.
Yeah, there you go. And which is fine and dandy, but we're missing, the poem is still calling to us, the poem of Earth. And we have so missed that train. So this is where I'll go. I always will go with poetry. Even though I'm the guy who puts it on paper, it's whatever is in here beyond the heart that says, this is what I want to do, this is what I want you to say. And we have to, by the way, when you write, I can't tell anybody, this is all up to you. My feeling is, when I write poetry, I better be honest. Why write it?
So,
And you can get in trouble over it, but you gotta write it.
so talking about different forms, would you name a few more popular forms that are being written in English right now? Like haiku, for example, is one of them, right? So others.
Yeah, haiku is one, and that's short. You know, you got, I think 3 lines. I think it's 575.
575.
Yeah, and whatever you want to tell your story, and that's there. You can do rhyming. You can do free verse. I used to write rhyme, and then somehow I got brave, and I tried writing free verse. And a whole new world come up. And we have to give permission to ourselves to try different things. We're here on earth, try different things, write different things. I personally, I got paper here and I've got notes on it, I will not throw that away. If it's a little piece of paper, I have not thrown one piece of paper away because that came from within the heart. And down the road, it could turn into a haiku, it could go free verse, it could go into rhyme, but don't ever throw your material away, because that's a piece of you that spoke out 6 months ago, 6 years ago, 16 years ago, or 1967 over in Karachi. And it came there for a reason. We speak, we write, but why? That's the imagination at work. So those are just a couple of, I don't vary too much into different, those are my main ones, some haiku. Yeah.
And so now thinking about the audience that you get, and thinking about the different poets that you see or hear or listen to or read. In Urdu, the rhythmic poetry is much more popular, so even more than the free verse and much more than the prose poetry. So when it has more rhyming, people like it more because of the musical effect of it. Do you have the same thing in English word as well?
For me, once again, I think I'm extremely fortunate, right? So what if I can't play guitar or the sitar or the piano or sing, but in the sense of my brain likes rhythm, rhyme for poetry, and it goes like this, da 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 da, whether it be 2 syllables, 3, 5 syllables, and so on, like you have in yours, right? You love the rhyme. We can benefit from that. We learn from that. That's why it's important to share everybody together and pass on your ideas from Karachi, Pakistan, India, and so on over here, and we mesh. I think that's what you call that. That's like evolution. We work together and we evolve in the brain, or with words, or with rhyme, and it's okay to do so. So rhyming, I have fun. Actually, at UN, I have a lot of fun doing rhyme. My brain does. It's the rhythm, and it must be the dance, the rhythm. And you get it, like when you spoke earlier, and you applaud, and you're laughing and joking, and wow, right? That's a real positive, strong energy to have. I don't see when Lisa may MC or be there, or I'll be MCing, we don't have that interaction. Some people will respond, but the rhyme and the rhythm, I stay with it. It's beautiful, it's traditional as can be. And we do it over here, but here in North America, I think maybe even England, Europe, they've broken away and tried some free verse. But the rhyme creates a goodness in your head. You do 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 do. I don't know how it works, but we have control of that. So rhyming, I'm a big fan of rhyme.
Sure. So before I ask another question, Junaid, Sikandar bhai, or bhai, do you have anything? Junaid? Okay. Right. So. And I will come back to you also. Maybe I will try to hear something from you about haiku and the proposed, because you write that. So in a few minutes, I'll like to hear that from you. So in Urdu, the study of the meters and on the art of poetry, we call it aruz. Okay, which is from Farsi. So we call it aruz, and it is similar to prosody or versification in English. Okay. So what we do is, like you said about the rhythm in Urdu, what we do is So we have the reason by the fluctuation, and please do correct me, Nuza Sahib or Dr. Sahib or Munir Sahib. So we do we have our meter based on the fluctuation of words, the sounds, okay. And in English, of course, you have rhythm in a different way, I think, based on the stress, how you stress on syllables, etc. Would you like to explain a bit for us to understand, if you want to?
I think, once again, it also takes practice. I started writing about 20 years ago, and it had to do with my daughter. She was at Sick Kids, and I would take her down every week and to Toronto, and I got into a writing group, and I was struggling, and the writing group was only doing short stories. And my brain said, why are you writing a short story? Can you not say it in shorter words? So I didn't even know I could write poetry or try to write poetry. And so I tried it, and then my brain, I think we all have the ability or the capacity. The thing is, just try it, whatever it be. Then the syllables, the rhyming, the dance, it's in here. We got to go, come on out. And I think that's what happens there. If you can just go into your mind or give permission to try. I've talked to people, many people, and they say, I can't write. I said, well, put your pen to paper and try. And the brain is waiting, the imagination is ready, and it'll come up with the dance, the rhythm, the different syllables, and so on. So it's a matter of practice, trying, giving permission to yourself. Oh, I can do that. Like when we look around and say, oh my God, he's a very, very good writer, she's a very, very good poet, and we put ourselves down, and we never ever went into our imagination, which is so beautiful. Well, like Einstein said, the most important thing I think in life is curiosity. Go in there and open that door, right? So as far as, I guess, on the syllable or the rhymes and such, or it's about practicing. And we do have it in here. I had to go find that out as best I could, right? As best I could. That we can do that. And also, you will find, like I've never written a book before. I've got tons of poems. And this is just but it's fun. It's giving permission. Once again, society shuts us down, I think, and family and all. I got poems in here my family will not be happy about. But the poems will be happy. You have to realize how important the poem is. The poem is part of us. I didn't realize that, but the poem is so powerful, and it opens other doors, other pages, other books. So yeah, it's trying it, going with it. I hope I'm trying to answer your question, but I know I may stray off a bit, but I want to go back to how important the imagination is. And wherever if you want to write haikus, you want to write double syllables, triple, 16 syllables, if you can find such a word, do it. But it's about trying things, right? When we leave here, I leave here today, I'm going to be more enlightened. I'm going to have fun. Work is just chatting with you and listening and so on. So hopefully.
So basically, you prefer imagination and bringing the emotions out more than the meter and all those things. More about whatever you are thinking, just write it down. That's what you are saying, right?
I would definitely, right, because we do it just to present rhythm or rhyme, and how many syllables did I get in there, or did I get 16 lines or 24, then you're not being honest to yourself. Bring out, that's how I look at it. There's a lot of top poetry in there. I'm sure a number of you ladies and gentlemen, when you write your poetry, there's a lot of hard stuff that wants to come out, and that's the place to go. That piece of paper I told you about, I don't ever throw away. You don't have to put it in your book. Hopefully you do, because that's who you are. That is so who you are. So yeah, I'm more about imagination and telling the story. Otherwise, why am I writing if I didn't tell the story through the poem?
And because we have some, when it comes to Ardus or if anyone of you, Luza Sahib or Dr. Sahib or Munir Sahib or Shair Faisal, anyone of you, if you want to add something here, please do let me know.
So, if you allow me, I guess if you take some,
say your name first?
Anyway, my name is Shah Kareem Ahmed. I didn't come here prepared, to say anything, and it was a pleasure to meet you. And the way I think, Faisal, we were planning to start a YouTube channel, and my daughter, she wanted to be host because I'm very close to retirement, and we wanted to start a YouTube channel, and I would be, the host or something, and she would be the host, and I would be the guest or something like that.
The name of the channel we gave from my book. And my daughter asked me, why my book? And I told her that, look, we all, with our all experiences and with our life experiences, if you write down on a piece of paper, perhaps that will become like a book. And everybody, we all look at a certain thing, but our perception is all different. And the example I give, if you go to Niagara Falls, somebody can go, oh, wow, look at that beautiful fall, and this, but do you know that there are 30 poems written, on Niagara Falls, something like that? And I saw like one tablet there, and one poet just sitting and watching the fall and everything for a long time, and just talking to the, the fall. Oh, fall, how fortunate you are free. You can go anywhere you like. And he came from the South America or something like that. So
coming back to Urdu or...
Oh, yeah, I'll talk about Urdu. So here what it is the poetry, whether it's a prose or poetry or something like that, this is basically a tool. Your experiences, your thoughts, your imagination and everything you are writing, on a piece of paper or something like that. And comparing prose and the poem, like with the rhyming words and everything, and the Javed Akhtar once told that in English poet, there is no radif. The only rhyming words.
So next topic is I'm going to talk about that.
Right. So here basically like how you present it, and I have some knowledge about the music and everything. I was comparing Eastern music with the Western music, and why you like rhyming words, why you like rhythm and everything, because everything is connected with your heart. Mm-hmm. So if you write prose or something like that, and then it's the same thing written in poetry or something like that, somebody will pay more attention because that appeals more or something like that, right? Yeah. So it makes it very, very powerful. That's my message.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks about that. Thanks for that. So I was just a tangent. I just wanted to see if do we have any? Yeah, Munir, please.
Thank you for being here. I just want to mention.
So Munir Sami is running Artist Forum and Progressive Writers as a union, association. Sorry, I'm sorry. That's a very good point.
So just to connect on the formal discussion that he's talking about what forms and what genres.
Yes.
So, most of the English poetry, as I understand, and John Hollander, who wrote the book Rhymes Reason, has explained, is revolve around what we call iambic pentameter or iambic pentameter, and then you go to free words and stuff like that. Similarly, in Urdu, we have several meters, like 16 meters on which people write. They took it from Arabic and Persian, and all of them are very complex meters. And those meters are such that even in the ghazal genre, multiple such meters are used. It's a very complicated system of poetry, the language that we call Urdu, that comes from Farsi and Arabic in terms of poetry. So John Hollander himself, and this for general public who want to understand what these genres are in English and the meters in English, I would strongly suggest a book called Rhymes Reason. It's only $15 book. I've been distributing it to the people. If you go through that, you will understand all of the form that is normally used in the English or the Western poetry. But interestingly, John Hollander mentions ghazals, and he talks about ghazals meters into that book. So this is already there in what you call the collateral of poetry and forms. So we should keep that in mind in terms of exchange of ideas so that the forms can be more easily understood. But what it is said, the iambic pentameter is a very simple form of English in which many people can do what you call the short and long, short and long, short and long, mix them up. But when it comes to Urdu poetry, it becomes very complicated. So only the very special people on this can write in those forms that are there. There are lots of them, and major works have been done. So I just wanted to mention that if you're talking forms, as a comparison, we should keep that in mind.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And yeah.
Thank you for coming.
She's a senior poet and very good poet.
And my main themes are also equality, unity, humanity, global peace, and spirituality. We want to unite. Unity of humanity. Unity with nature and unity with the universe. So, adding to Munir's statement, I just want to say that in Urdu poetry, even the free verse has a meter. It is a dance of meter inside, and you will catch it. And we don't write free poetry like totally free from rhythm. It's not like that. So we are very, very rhythm.
Yeah, thank you. So, like Manik Saab said about John Hollander, and move forward. Maybe you or one of also Lisa. Do you have any impression of the Eastern poetry, from Eastern languages, Farsi, Urdu, Hindi, Bengali, anyone? Anything you want to add? If you would like to.
Are you okay or not?
Are you okay?
Am I adding to?
If you have, or maybe you or if you have any impression of these languages, the poetry written in these languages, in the Eastern languages, I want to actually start with something. So I just wanted to know.
If not, I'll okay. So you can probably read this in Urdu for me, okay?
Oh, okay.
Read this in Urdu, and I'll try to respond in English. So not this one, down 5, is it?
Number 5. So it's from Zehra Nigam. हम तो समझे थे कि एक जख्म है भर जाएगा, क्या खबर थी कि रगे जाम में उतर जाएगा. And the translation.
Okay. So right here, and this is the translation. This one. Yeah. Down. Here we go. Okay. Okay. So the translation, I thought it was a wound that would heal. Who knew it would seep into the very veins of my soul?
Yeah.
So when you ask comparison or what do I think, we think of Urdu language poetry. Shakespeare in Macbeth, Lady Macbeth had said, all the waters, I'm just going to paraphrase, I don't have the exact words, said all the waters in the world will not wash away this blood. And so when it said, who knew would seep deep into the very veins of my soul, even though I thought it was a wound that would heal. And so in comparison then, we have this universal, as the lady was just saying there, we have this universal connection, awareness. We all have pain or guilt or things we carry with us we cannot get rid of. Like you were saying, you're connected to the universe and the humanity. And so that's what Shakespeare wrote about, right? So in Urdu, as you just read, we all, whether it be 2,000 years ago, 100 years ago, 15 years ago, 1967 over in Karachi, we all connected. And so the same thoughts are via Urdu or via Shakespeare or via Karachi. We're all in this together. We all have the same feelings. You may express it in Urdu in a certain way, and with the many syllables and such that you use over there, and you're very tight and very rigid in how you say it, very specialized. But in here, as you just said a few minutes ago, we're hooked to the heart.
Yep.
And so that's humanity. That's the humanity that you spoke of. So what do I think of Urdu? I loved reading the translations. There's another one here. You can read it, please. That one there. That one.
That's from Famida Riaz. मैं तो वो सोच हूँ जो नए रास्ते ढूंढती है. मैं वो रोशनी हूँ जो अंधेरों से जंग करती है. मैं ख्याल है, I think it's a prose, 2 lines of a prose poem.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay. And the translation of that is, I am the thought that seeks new paths. I am the light that battles the darkness. So, once again, we have that. If we didn't have the light that battles the darkness, and we do have it, we do need it, right? We just spoke about Mother Earth a few minutes ago. That's what's going to guide us. So in Urdu, in that lovely language and the lovely readings, It's the truth. It's the calling. It's the knock on the door. Are you listening? And that's what's going on. So our poetry is so vital. Once again, whether it's Shakespeare or over in Lahore or up in Upper Pradesh or over in India or wherever you're coming from, is that cry, that tear, that honesty that's out there. And these people wrote this a long time ago. Some of your famous poets had written this stuff here. And so it's about being curious and going forward. Because if we don't go forward, we're in trouble.
Thank you. So coming back to Ghazal, so Monica also mentioned about John Hollinger. So Dr. Faisal. Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much. One is a minor correction. The first verse, हम तो समझे थे कि that's not Zara Lega, it's Praveen Shakir.
Okay, so wrong way clear.
Secondly, I have been hearing so much of emphasis on the feeling and the heart, and to what degree a creative artist could be influenced by the intellectual ideas, or a poet or a writer and an artist should be impervious to the intellectual ideas. To what degree?
What was it?
So you're asking how much he should be impervious to the ideas?
Immune to the ideas, intellectual ideas.
Immune to the intellectual ideas, which means probably you're asking how he should be more original, more genuine, rather than repeating things. Is that what you're meaning?
If I say something?
Yeah, please.
I think he's talking about the more philosophical and intellectual ideas, because we are talking here about emotions, about feelings, about that impact which poetry creates on the creator and the listener, and how it binds people. But the intellectual ideas, where you thought-provoking ideas, or thoughtful ideas, or you can say philosophy. I think there are many philosopher poets in the history in our religion.
Go ahead, please.
So actually, in the back of my mind is a very old Dionysian and Apollo of our Greek mythology, and always a great piece of art has a good combination of both of them. And over here I've been hearing more so of the heart and the feeling only, and was just wondering, is it enough to create a great art?
So basically, we are emphasizing so much about on the feelings and emotions, and the question is that enough for poetry? Well, of course it has its own place and very important place, but how about other ideas which take the humanity forward, right? Things like that. So what do you think about that?
We are all, personally, we're all individuals. I grew up in a family of 12, and I was influenced by a brook, and actually was by nature, by whales, by spiders, by friends, by sick friends in wheelchairs. Some young kids died, heart problems, 9, 10 years old, leukemia, wheelchair bound and all. That affected me as a person towards humanity that came out much later in my poetry. So some people may not be affected philosophically, right? But pain-wise they will. And if that's where their poem is, then that's all they need to be, and where they could be. Others who might read many different books or study in different languages and such, and venture off into other realms, if you will, then that's where they're going to, we're not all at the same level. We're all different. And so how some people love, I work with a guy, a president of a society for poetry, and he would not let anybody read free verse. He said the only poems, anything, is just rhyme. And so he was also, how do you say, he had his own views. So we all have our own views. I left that group because of his views, okay? And I'm being honest, I'm being honest. But, so philosophically, we're all at different levels, and we all have different thoughts. We all have different educations, we all have different energies that pull at us. Some may grow up very, very rich. Some may have grown up in a situation without much. I have talked to Faisal and chatted about his childhood and all. And there's others around us who are afflicted. How do they write their poetry if they're afflicted? So that's all I can say. We're all different in how we write. Hopefully I'm answering your question.
So the subject of the poetry will change from person to person depending, what he is thinking, what he is looking, what he is experiencing, right?
Yeah, there's 8 billion people in the world right now, as of November last year, I think.
Yeah.
And so yes, we all have different energies, different feelings. Like I read lots of poetry and say, I'm sorry, I don't understand a lot. So I do not understand where she is coming from because I'm not on her spiritual level, her philosophical level, wherever that be. But emotionally I can get attached. But yeah, there's different levels, I suppose, of how we connect. And some people read certain types of poetry and they're blown away with it. And I said, I was lost on the first line. And I'm being honest, right?
So yeah, there's before that, interestingly, if I don't know whether you remember, I think probably it was Ali Azam Malik or who, in his magazine he used to say, not Ali Azam Malik, I'm forgetting the name, sorry. He used to write, we only publish poetry, no haiku, no prose poetry, no this and no that. It was quite controversial, like you said. The free poetry poem wasn't allowed. Please. And please say your name also.
Okay, my name is Sumaira. I go by, my pen name is Samra, and I'm not a very big writer or anything. But just a question that most of us sitting in this room are mostly like middle-aged, mature people, except the ladies, they're all under 30. So my question is, in our lifetime, we have seen so much transition in the literature world. Like when I was growing up, I we used to read books, right? And it turned to like audio visuals. Then now it turned to like audio books and artificial intelligence. So the question I want to ask is, you guys talked a lot about emotions and philosophy or whatever, right? But nowadays, this artificial intelligence, you can put the keywords and it can generate whatever you want, right? So what do you see? Like, do you see it as a threat or a challenge to the actual human touch or human emotions when you compare to the poems or literature generated by this AI? Thank you.
Yeah, hey, thank you, my dear. Last week I was with a group just outside Oshawa, a poetry group. There were 6 of us. One gentleman was invited by a friend, and he said, I don't write poetry. He said, but can I try one on AI? I've not done personally on AI any poetry. And I said, sure, go ahead. And the theme was about ghosts and trees. In about 20 seconds, he had a poem. You all know how hard it is to write one line, or just to get started, or a title. And it came out like, had he not told us it was AI, how am I to know that? Some of it is very, very good. There's a gentleman, I think Jeffrey Hinton, was it? He just won the Nobel Prize for Physics for AI. His scare, and he just won it last week. He's a Canadian English doctor. And he's scared this can be as to where this is going. So right, if we give our heart away or trust in AI, then we've lost it. So yeah, AI, from what I understand of it, and I'm certainly no person to really have any background in it, other than I read about it, I experienced it. Last year I was out in my backyard, and I was writing a poem, and I was having a drink. And we have Google, and you have Siri, and all these others you can ask for, hey, play some music. And I said, there was an album playing, and I said to Google, please, can you play the next? I said next, I can just say next and it'll come up with the next song. And this is what the lady said on Google. I said, hey Google, next. And she said, next what? I'm not even a drinker, whoa. And I said, my God, that's funny. And this is what she said. This is AI. I said, hey Google, next. And she said, next what? I said, that's funny. She said, I am working on my humor. That was funny, but also very, very scary that they become our companion. Yeah. And we trust in it, like whomever. I think, by the way, thank you all who showed up, all of you who came, I think from Toronto, Mississauga way and all. Thank you for being here.
Even Buffalo.
And Buffalo, cool. Wonderful. So, good luck going back to your city trying to get in with all the snow. But anyway, when you got here or driving here and you used your automated guiding system to get here, that's AI. You trusted that would bring you to Ajax, Ontario. That is AI. That's what we're doing to ourselves. We're becoming that. A lot of people don't know where south is or north. Google will tell me that. Or where's the lake? Google told me. How come it's not there? So with AI, yeah, don't lose your heart. Don't lose your poetry, my dear. Thank you for the, but it's real. It's like years ago, and I use this example, people were terrified of microwaves, radioactivity. What are you doing? You can't cook like that, that's wrong. There are 100 and 100 and 100 more types of food made specifically and only for the microwave. Yeah. We've given ourselves away to that. AI is so prominent, so strong, so right now. And people, the gentleman last week, 20 seconds or so, did a poem. I struggle, I love my poetry as hard as it is. The reason I love my poetry, you speak of it, you speak of that, humanity, because we're part of evolution, and something says, listen, you better protect us. Whether it be poetry, dance, song, give someone a hug. If you depend on AI to give you your hug, not good, not good. So no, it's a lot of pain because your pain got to come out. No pain came out of AI.
Yeah. No. Actually, I would say before, yeah.
You see what's happened with AI?
Thank you very much. Sorry, I have a mask on because I have an immune issue. My name is Lisa Reynolds, and I'm the branch manager for the Ontario Poetry Society. I'm very happy to be here and to support Patrick as well. So we have talked about the issue of AI quite a bit, and it is very controversial in terms of who is the author of what is created. In the end, that is the end question. Who is writing the poem? And if you have a computer-generated program writing the poem for you, you are not the author of that poem. And that's something to think about. Sometimes you can have something that gives you help, gives you an idea, maybe using it for a prompt. But when you look at the poetry itself, does it really have what is necessary to be a good poem? Or is it plagiarizing someone else's poetry? You can put in a poem and say, or put in a couple words and say, give me a poem that sounds like Mary Oliver. And then something will be spewed out for you. Is that your poem? No, that's not your poem. So when we give up our own sense of intelligence to a program to write something for us, then where does it end? It changes everything, and then, we become reliant on something, and we are no longer poets or writers. And so that's just something to think about. Other people look at it on other degrees in terms of perhaps helping with translating and so forth, but also with translating, it's not translating completely accurately. I've tried it myself in terms of having, taking a poem that was done for me and then translating, putting it in Google actually, and seeing if it gave out exactly the words that I wrote in my poem, exactly the same meaning, and it didn't. And I had actually paid someone to translate for me. I was just saying to this gentleman here, I had paid someone to translate for me, and it wasn't accurate. And yet, when I met with a fellow colleague, a poet, and he translated my poem to Farsi, and he read it on the radio in Farsi, and I read it in English. It was just such a comforting experience because I knew that I could trust that he was writing it properly because we were able to converse on it as humans, not, you know, using a generated program and hoping that they were getting the feeling and the depth and all the words properly. Because as you know, when you translate, you know, what is said in English may not come out the same as what is said in Farsi. So that's just something to consider. But just to add like to my whole thoughts on, you know, the authenticity of AI, you have to really think about why you're writing. And if it's just to get published and to put something out there and say, put your name on it, you know, you have to really ask yourself, should I put that out if I haven't written it? You know, there's things that can help you. I'm also my background as a teacher, so I understand the difficulties in the second language and changing things over. But at the same time, even if you don't speak a second language and it's just English, there's that same question as to the authenticity of the poem.
Yeah, thank you very much. I would say it's AI is more like a IKEA where you have so many small things placed there, scattered around. You can pick those, the best things, and put together and say, okay, this is my product. Yeah, please. So.
Patrick, nice to see you here. Since you mentioned Corner Brook, I used to live in St. John's. Once passed through Corner Brook going to Portabas. We stayed there one day, so it's nice to see
Dr. Faisal is a psychiatrist and a very good writer, and also he writes in English and Urdu both, and a poet.
So good to remind of Newfoundland.
So you talk about heart a lot, right? That's why Dr. Faisal runs an organization called Family of the Heart.
Of course. I think the question for you, before the question, that the thing that struck me coming from Pakistan to Canada, to North America, that in Pakistan, one person is a poet, the second person composes music, the third person sings. So there are three different people in that. But when I came to North America, I realized that the same person can compose a song, the same person can compose music, and the same person can sing. So all three identities in North America can be in one. So, but I want to ask you, these songwriters, how do you see songwriters different than poets? Because many people just write poetry, while others sort of compose songs and music and all that. Do you think the songwriters are as well respected as the poets or not? That's my thought.
Thank you.
I think it was Taylor Swift, wasn't it? I just mentioned a few minutes ago, okay? I went to, so I'm trying to answer your question, and lovely that you're out in St. John's and all. They speak funny there, mind you. We always poke fun at them and vice versa. And I say that in a very loving way. So I went to a book celebration, a book launch out in Oshawa University out there, UOIT, and roughly 150 booksellers. There was one person selling poetry. One, okay? So when we have open mics, we get minimal attention or numbers coming out. Songwriters, because it can go to music, a guitar, piano, and voice in that sense, there's a lot more attraction there. Maybe it's literally the music of it that makes us dance, make us move, make us feel good. You can obviously get that in poetry, but songwriters, I mean, like John Lennon, McCartney, and all them, they were Leonard Cohen. They're songwriters and poets, right? They blend together. So maybe it's a fine line on that, who the poet is and what their songwriter is. That's how some blend over. Some I've been approached by people, musicians, and asked me to write them music, poetry, if you will. So it's a tricky line, but it's interesting that you say three of them is broken down individually back home. Here, yeah, they do their own thing, but that's just about to feed the human spirit, whatever one wants to do. We shouldn't have shackles on us or boxes and say you can't go beyond that. Be who you want to be. And if you're, I don't write music. I've written one song, The Cove. And for me, it's fascinating what's in here to come out as a songwriter. Because then the music is alive in you. For some people it may be no difference, or some people say a songwriter and a poet are completely different. Rhyme, that's music, da, 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 that's a songwriter, but it's the songwriter in a poet's mind. We all have it.
Even in Pakistan or even in India, other places, there are people who are doing this thing, that they are writing their own song, and but it's not. If you look at it, it's not as good in terms of creativity, like a piece of literature. But yeah, so like that.
Faisal, Munir was to just quick comment.
Okay, sure.
On the same.
Khalis will raise a very important question I wanted to touch upon. It's very, very important because if you people remember the name Bob Dylan was given the Nobel Prize of Poetry. He was a songwriter, one of the greatest songwriters of our times. So, and they said that we have awarding him for his poetic expression. So a songwriter could be a great poet, and this is no barrier. And the other person who is a Canadian artist is Leonard Cohen. So the debate was whether Cohen should receive the prize or Bob Dylan should. Both of them great poets. I mean, they happen to sing their song themselves, and the great songs. So there's no difference between a songwriter or a poet. They are the same people.
Sometimes.
That's how I look at it. Thank you.
Okay, so same topic, right? Yeah.
Add to this whole discussion that my own daughter is a singer-songwriter, and with my own sensitivity about Urdu and Persian poetry, I feel she is writing very good poems. I think what singer-songwriter do is beautify and enhance the music and its beauty, poem's beauty to a higher level, because the sound effect, but it brings out that poetry. It is not only independently doing some rhythms and everything. So actually singer-songwriter is a poet who enhances the beauty and rhythm of the poetry.
And Obed, so and after Obed, are you talking about the same topic? Or yeah, okay. So after that, first I will go back to Ghazal. I will talk something about that, and then we will come back.
Hi, my name is Ubed Khan, and I am a student of literature and also software engineering.
He is a poet as well.
Yeah.
He's also a very good poet.
Yeah, thank you very much. So, my comment on that one, that okay, we used to have, we used to make houses with our hands, okay, in the past, right, in thousands of years ago. But now we have tools, we have cranes, and so in future what I see that AI will be a tool, right, and you still have to give prompts to them. So still you can write your own stuff, but we will be using tools to do that, okay? And one thing about AI and our new, like Google translation, you remember we had this discussion on Facebook on that one, that languages are getting closer to each other, right? Because I read software journals also, in which I actually read that, okay, we have three different ways to write Urdu, what you call it, Roman Urdu or classical Urdu writing and Devanagari. Like we can write it, but in future we can actually see whatever we want to see. Anybody can write in any language and it would come to us at that language. So use it as a tool like artificial intelligence and other as a tool, and how to write those prompts to those Copilot, ChatGPT. So we need to learn that, because we are in a new world, like whether we like it or not, we are going to that direction. So just try to use that, okay, and try to acknowledge that, okay. So it's not our competitor. Those are the tools for us, and we may use those. Okay. So this is my comment on that. Thank you.
Let me go back to the topic of the forms. And by the way, ownership question will still remain here.
Yeah. So, but
no, I mean, I'm not challenging. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
So going back to the forms now, in Urdu, the most popular form, like I said before, is ghazal, and Munir Sahab mentioned about John Hollander. So ghazal has been written in Urdu with certain, and ghazal has some limitations, but you'll be surprised that with so many restrictions, so many limitations, ghazal is the most popular form of poetry in Urdu, even in these days. And one reason could be because, and it's also, by the way, people have even written English ghazal with all those restrictions, limitations, and John Hollander is one of those examples. And then there are people who said, okay, we will write ghazal, but we don't accept all these shackles. So they even wrote anti-ghazal in Urdu as well as in English. And so they broke those rules, and they did that. Now, what are those rules? So some of those rules are, one thing is, ghazal is made of some units. Each unit is a couplet of 2 lines. Okay. And this could be why, maybe one reason why in these days of TikTok, ghazal is still popular, because every couplet, which is called share, you know, Shabe Share, right? So Shabe Share actually means poetry night. So in which share is a couplet or poetry. So in ghazal you have units. Every unit is a couplet of 2 lines, and because every share or every couplet is complete in its own self, and due to that it travels very easily. It travels across boundaries, and it becomes a proverb most of the time. We use couplets or share when we want to talk. Like I started with when in the very beginning I read a share, a couplet, right? Har ek zaman dari chahe khana hai jaan ka. So that may be one reason. The limitations are, number 1, it has to be in form of couplets. In every couplet, it has to have certain meter, and same meter has to be followed throughout the ghazal. And you have a refrain and you have a rhyme in that. So in the first couplet, you have both. Sometimes you do, you have refrain in ghazal, sometimes you don't, but rhyme is always there. Every couplet ends with a rhyming word. Okay. So I'm thanks to Munir Sahab, he gave me that reference. So and every couplet could be on a separate topic as well. So John Hollander, he wrote a ghazal on ghazals. I will just quickly read 3 of his couplets from there, which actually tells what a ghazal is. It's for couplets, the ghazal is prime at the end. Of each one's a refrain like a chime at the end, but in subsequent couplets throughout the whole poem, it's the second line only will rhyme at the end. You gathered all manner of flowers all day, but your hands were most fragrant of thyme at the end. So it's a long ghazal, but I just read 3 of them. So this is where he tells actually what it is. Okay. So thinking about that, what do you think about the concept of this rhythm, this rhyme and refrain of Urdu ghazal? How do you think it might, it could resonate with the English poetry? It does with English poetry tradition, or how it might resonate today?
As best as we're all individual in how we write, what our upbringings, our education, our emotions, especially emotions. So, and I struggle writing, as I said earlier, writing a paragraph to a story, and something inside me said, write poetry. I was brought up that poetry was rhyming, so I wrote poetry as best as I could 20 years ago in rhyme. And then I realized, oh, you can also use syllables and alliteration to do the dance. And as you said, like you can, when you do your couplet, you can even have a different energy or a different meaning, a different thought going on as you change throughout. If we get a book only with 60 pages, every book in the world was 60 pages, and someone came up and said, I want to do 61. That's breaking from the routine, the pattern, the system. I actually think that's okay, because we can only do so much in 60 pages. And what I'm trying to say here, like when we do rhyme or your couplets and verse and all, sometimes, for me, sometimes rhyming might lock me down. That's not what I wanted to say. I need to say something else with other words. meaning go beyond page 60 or get out of that. But if that's your tradition and pattern and set up in 1960 or even 67, but way back, then that's important too, not to break the tradition. But you also got to be honest in here, opening up your heart. And if a rhyme won't open my heart, then I'll go to something else. And that's because you have to answer your own way. So so as far as rhyming or couplets and staying that was consistent, beautiful, my spirit needed who else? Because we're all different spirits. So I think you got to answer to that too. As far as, by the way, the gentleman who spoke about, he's on, I think he's on AI right now.
So you're guessing on AI.
Anyway, yeah, of course, like AI and all that's out there available, medicine, technology, brilliant and beautiful and powerful, right? But we can't give away our heart over it. And I think I have control of that. That's how I look at that. I have control of that. I have control of this. But if AI tells me I'm working on my humor and she wants to relate with me, that's the place I don't want to go. And I don't want her or it or whatever that be to tell me how to feel. Once I get the other way, you tell me how to feel, then I wouldn't be sitting up here. And that's the thing for thought control, if you will.
Yeah, next. So we are going to talk about some interactive things, but just a second, sorry. And before that, we'll take some questions. But I would request to keep that short. So yeah.
Yeah, Shahid,
actually, I will not go into any technology or AI or anything. I'll go on personality. Yes. Honor Brooks' reference brought me here because knowing that you're Newfoundland, the very sight of you honestly reflected that even if you are not a poet, you would be a poet. Because we went to Newfoundland, we drove there, and my first pleasant shock was how friendly and how close to nature people in Newfoundland were. So I want to just mention to you in a very personal terms, I heard about your poem, My Daughter and I, or My Daughter and Her Father, something like to that effect. And I think
Father and daughter.
Father and daughter. I think it is that kind of feeling which have nothing to do with AI that brings the poet in you. I would very much like you to recite that, and then we will be able to feel how close poetry is in any language. You know, listening to you about love of nature and all that almost reminded me to quote a verse from Ghalib, who is one of the greatest poet of any language. And I'll say it in Urdu, then I'll translate it for you. And he said, Dekhna taqreer ki lazzat ke jo usne kaha, maine ye jana ke goya ye bhi mere dil mein hai. Just look at the delightful words that she speaks. And Ghalib always contradicts and draws attention to this contradiction, speech and feeling, words and delightfulness. And the delight was that I thought as if what she said was my heart's own voice. That's what poetry means in terms it relates you to me and to everybody else. It relates you to nature. AI is a great tool, I totally agree with you. It's a great tool to improve your draft or things like that. But if you try to be dishonest and in 20 seconds you tell AI that write a poem because I'm going to an event where Patrick Meade will be there, and it writes that, it is dishonesty. And again, comparison in two languages, the same thing when it comes from Shakespeare. This above all to thine own self be true. And then it follows, as the day, the night, thou canst not be false to any man. you lose that honesty when you put your name to something that AI has created. So I just want you to share some things with us in a very personal way, and do recite that poem when you can. Thank you very much.
So I think in the end I will request Patrick to read it, and Shahzad Sahab he is also a negotiator. He is a conflict resolution. He was on conflict resolutions, and he has done so very great translations as well. Now, if there is anything you want to say, so for the poetry recital, I will do it. We'll do it at the very end. We'll hear something. But if you want to say something about that.
I'm really, I thank you for your warmth, your kindness, your openness. The power of being truthful. What you stood up there, you said, this is how I feel about your poetry, your honesty, your openness. You guys that smiled by the water and all. But that's not just me, right? Many countries have that. Many countries. We happen to be surrounded by salt water in Wales, that's the only difference, if you will. But I'm honored, sir.
Thank you very much. So before we start, start talking about the things that we used to wrap up, before that, for Shah Sahab and then Mr. Saiwa.
Yeah, I asked Junaid that I have a question to ask, and he said, okay, give it to Shahid Sahab. So.
Okay, you go ahead. And then we'll come to Shah Sahab, and then Nuzar Saiba, and then we'll come.
Okay, my question is of a general nature. When we were growing up back in Pakistan, even children have a lot of interest in poetry. They have remembered many couplets of different poets, and they were reciting in schools and all that, and they have a good understanding of poetry. And with time, that was diminishing. I can see that it has gone from verse to very verse or whatever. Do you see the same thing in Canada or in Western world, that new generation is going away from love of poetry or away from that kind of experience of life that make them better in life, but through poetry?
I will say, thank you. When I met with Faisal, and Faisal had come with his son Rahman out to participate and be part of our group, how much energy and aliveness there is in Pakistan, India, with Karachi, Lahore, and so on. You have, it seems, a lot of good groups from 1967 and beyond that kept poetry alive. I just mentioned a couple of minutes ago about being to this book fair, 150 people, booksellers, one was poet. One. We don't get too many people, like we only have a couple of young people here today, young being probably under 30. And that's just the way the world is. But whoever has the heart or the calling or the within us to go do, tell you feel, right? We all have feelings, but we put them on paper and it becomes a poem and it becomes a tear and all. So the young people out there, we've offered many different ways. We've had young people come up, 16, 17, 18, and so on. But I think poetry may, if you will, the opening of the heart, might come a little later. They're all possibly poets within. I didn't write till 20 years ago, but all the pain, the tears were there. You mentioned Cornerbrook. My mom, who I'm extremely close to, she's not with us anymore, but she showed me so much, and she showed me through silence. Showed me so much. She gave me a loaf of bread one day to go next door. I lived by that brook. And the father was out at sea. I only saw him 3 times in 5 years. He worked the coastal boats around the island. And his mother, his wife, or the kid's mother, had gone. This is about my mother and poetry. And but anyway, had gone to clean the church, clean Jesus, clean the toilets, clean the Blessed Virgin and all, right? That was her job, in the blizzard. My mother asked me to go take care of 3 little kids, 5, 3, and 1, a boy, 2 boys and a girl, and she gave me a loaf of bread. And so this is about poetry or emotion that stays with you over time, okay? The child, all these emotions are poured into us as children. We feel it, feel it, abuse, horrendous stuff. Later on, or kindness and love, it comes out later as a poem. So, you know, as young kids, we're all woven together with thread, emotions, situations. Anyway, so my mother goes over and she asks me, or she brings, here, bring a loaf of bread. I'm already from a family of 12. And Mom found a way for a loaf of bread to be given to this family next door in the storm. The door was hanging off, there was snow in the porch. 3 little kids answer me meet me at the door, and they saw the loaf of bread and said, would you make us some toast? And I said, sure. The table was empty, the cupboard had empty plates and bowls, there's spoons and forks, and there's only enough room for 3 chairs in the kitchen and a crack in the window. The wind was blowing in through the window. And I said, well, where's your toaster? It's not in the cupboard, it's not in the... And she says, it's out here. She pulled the table out into the hallway. She turned up the heating stack, and we made toast on the floor. Oh, that was my mother knew what I was going into, and that's what comes out as poems, or emotion, or reality. So we all have it. Our poems, like I wouldn't be able to tell you that story unless it happened to me as a child, and same as you and everybody else, right? Things that happen to us as children come out later. So I'm not writing poems at 10, 12, 14, but they're in there. So that's the best I can answer that, is the reality of life. All our poems come out to the top later.
Yeah, thank you.
And just to let you know, so we are also planning to have an event for only young guys.
Beautiful.
So we will try to have some open mic. We haven't planned anything. We are just brainstorming. We are probably going to have something where any young fellow can come up and present what they are doing.
Okay, so Faisal, my comments will be very, very short. It's basically about the songwriter, and the other one is the AI. Very, very quickly. Songwriter, as you know, by profession I'm a civil engineer, but I'm passion for music or something like that. I sing, I write the songs, and also I play instrument. The reality is that I think that as long as you are following the rule of aruz, and everything is balanced and everything, of course, I mean, this will be classified as, like a song, as a poetry and everything. Good thing about a singer to compose or write the poetry is that the bahar that they measure. They don't need that kind of. It's very simple for them because they deal with the rhythm, which is a cycle of 16 and 14 and 17 beats and everything. It's a nature. Second, their nature. That right away they can write the poetry. So I think that but the difference, I tell you, the difference is, I cannot compare English and Urdu poetry because English is not my first language. And of course Urdu I can understand, but I tell you one thing, my daughter who was born here, she's a medical doctor, Dr. Shala, she is well versed in English and Urdu and French. And when she compares the poetry, she tells me that the depth in Urdu poetry is not the literal meaning, what you see there, but it has a very deep meaning in it. And perhaps in most of the English poetry, I mean, they don't have a deep meaning. So therefore, when a songwriter writes a poetry or something like that, I mean, it's not that deep in most cases. There could be some other, as you said, Marisa, there could be like a great songwriter or something like that, but majority of them are now. In terms of AI generated poetry is the same thing. Perhaps, I mean, it can be, like a simple meaning or something, but when it comes to the deep meaning in Urdu poetry, I'm not too sure if they can also produce Urdu poetry in AI. That I know. These are my comments.
I think there will be more people to challenge that when it comes to the depth in different languages.
My name is Nusra Sidir. Coming back to genre, because we were talking about that. I think the idea and the thought or the topic chooses the genre. That's why there's a question why in every poetry history There are so many genres. Why? Because in every genre you can go to a certain limit with your topic. For example, if I want to say some long, which need a long words, I can't say it in a ghazal, because ghazal is short and every two couplets have its own meaning, its own topic. So I have to go out of that.
Like your poem, like your peace poems, right?
Yes. So I have to go out of that. So it means that the genre is the need of your topic, your theme, not vice versa. Because we don't, whatever we think that I want to express this, genre comes automatically according to that. Because in any other genre it won't fit. It will fit only where it fits. So I think, as you said, that somebody wants to write page 61. So where they will go? They will go to some genre which allows them to write the page 61 beyond 60. From ghazal to a free verse or whatever form you want to choose. That's what I want to say. Thank you very much.
So, and the other thing I want to talk about, and just to remind you, so the way we have started doing putting books for donation, and sometimes we get somebody to give us the books that we donate, that we put there. So in future, if any one of you want to donate anything, please do so, because we will, inshallah, every time we'll have some charity organization there, and we will have books that we will donate. So that gives us a chance to for the other people to know about the organization as well as just continue with the donation there. And also about the young fellows, just think about it. Just if you have young people who want to write, or who like to listen, just be prepared for them and to get involved, to get them involved. Now let's talk about some interaction between the English and Urdu world. So we are like they're two parallel universes at the same place, and we see each other, but we cannot hear each other. We know we are doing something. We can see the lips moving, but we don't know what they are saying. It's like one of my father's mishap, one line of a couplet, "Tere mere beech ho jaise shishe ki diwar," as if there is a glass wall between us. So when the people who write in Urdu here in Canada, we have a dilemma. One thing is that we are cut off from the local mainstream literature circles, and that's because of the language difference, and because most of us were brought up with writing in Urdu. And the other thing is we are also not very well connected sometimes. We are maybe a step behind from the actual Urdu world in the Urdu speaking countries. So we are in that. So we want to, of course, we want to be part of the mainstream as well. Any advice you want to give to the Urdu Canadian writers and poets, how to bridge that gap with the mainstream?
I assume, thank you. Earlier, like we're all in this world together, right? So whether it be Urdu or Czechoslovakian or here in Canada, had more meetings, had more open, like I am fascinated with this today. Fascinated. And this is just part of it then, having group sessions like this, be open in different languages, and go to open mics, or translate material from Urdu to English and vice versa. And like some of it is lost. You're saying Berkadar, right? Some of it lost with the French, English, and Urdu and all. But continuing to do this, just have meetings, just go online and see what is being offered out there in a sense, translation, if you will. But having your own language discussions, because you don't want to lose that. is important too, right? And hopefully, like I actually do not know any Urdu, right? I had to come up here, by the way, when I was in Newfoundland, they have their own language. I had to come up here and learn my own English, right? Trust me. Like, we got different words all together back home, and the accent, and the dialect. So, but I admire that you're doing this and brought it to this level of promoting your own, your poetry, and not letting it go by the wayside. Don't ever lose that. Don't ever lose your poetry. But and this is a way of branching out, bringing everybody in, and like I was fortunate enough to read some of the translations, and that's very powerful. So I say continue doing these and having open meetings and open mics and such.
Yeah, and how can we increase more cross-pollination through translations between Urdu and English? I mean, we have very good writers, for example, Shair Faisal, Dr. Sahab, Faisal, and I don't know, maybe Meade Sahab, whether you have done any translation, maybe Dr. Sahab or Tariq Mirza Sahiba. There might be some translations that you have done, and so if anyone else I'm missing, sorry. So we have people who are doing translations from English to Urdu and other languages as well. Even from indigenous, like Nasim Siyas, she's not here, but she did from indigenous poetry, she translated into Urdu. So, but of course, it's the other way around. It's not as much, of course, because English is more popular and more like Franco across the world. How can we increase that more in both directions? Can we do something to do to increase that?
Lisa's here. She's from the Ontario Poetry Society. She's the manager for this area here. And I guess if you want to join with the Ontario Poetry Society, it might be one option. Once again, just being out there, reading your and translating, especially because us, we who do not understand Urdu, can get the energy of that or the effective, or be inspired for it and get ideas to write down and say, yes, I can use that interpretation of that idea. I think just continuing on what you're doing.
Yeah, please.
I have a couple suggestions for getting out there and getting known by other poets, and that's the key, I think, is to interact with people of different nationalities and get your poetry heard, your name known as well. That's so important. So a couple ways to do that is through Facebook. There are groups that you can join, no charge at all. So no charge at all to getting, joining the groups. And then you can attend on Zoom. Zoom is really good because, non-person is not, coming in person is not always easy. And you can attend different events that are happening on Zoom throughout the world, not just in Canada, which is something that is really good. I just attended one that was taking place in Calgary the other night, and there was a gentleman, unfortunately I don't remember his name, but he did do a poem in English, and then he did it and he asked if he could translate it in his language, and he did it in his language as well. Now the time frame was a little different because it was MST, which is like 2 hours ahead of here in Toronto, or in Toronto anyways. So it was a bit different. Sorry, you were going to say something?
Yeah, what's the name of the Facebook group?
Oh, so there are so many. That one that I'm just talking about now, it was called Stroll of Poets. So that was handy. But there's other ones, and you just go on and you click, and you can go in. You don't necessarily have to join. You could just check it out. And you could just join the different Facebook or different Zoom events, and then you don't even have to participate. You could just attend as a listener and get comfortable with just being present. And then you can say, they'll have open mic, and they'll say, if you want to be on open mic, put your name in the, on the list or something that they have there. And then you could put your name on the list and then read your poetry online. And that it gets you more comfortable too with reading in front of people. Obviously you're all on the computer, but it can boost your confidence a little bit. And it also gets, like I said, gets your name known, you get exposure, you're listening to other people read their poetry. So you see what's working, what's not working. And the thing too is about having confidence in yourself, in what you're writing, because you're passionate about what you're writing. You're writing because you want to. If you're writing just because you want to get published, there's a way of doing that too. I mean, it's not the best way, but if you just want to get published, you know, you go through the magazine or the journal, you see what type of poetry they publish, and then you try to curtail your poems to what, you know, the type of poetry that they're publishing. So that's one way to, you know, get out there and get published. And that's actually, it works sometimes. I've done that myself, where I will really look into how a magazine, what they accept for poetry. And then I'll think, okay, does my poetry fit with what that magazine is publishing? And if it is, then I'll, you know, submit. If it doesn't, nowadays I don't submit because it's, you know, the rejection I know is coming, right? So, and then I've tried before where changing my poems up to just fit, you know, going to that structure, the literary structure of writing, where you lose your voice a little bit in your heart and your poetry, right? Because I'm a very emotionally driven poet when I'm writing. And I've done that too, internationally published. So like there's a way you can do things, but in the end you have to ask yourself, what am I doing this for? Is it just to get my name out there? Is it just to get my poetry read? And you know, how much are you willing to give up in terms of your poetry, in terms of what you're writing is important to you? Because that's key. And Patrick, I mean, he is true to himself when he's writing. You know, his heart is on his sleeve, and he does so well, touches so many people with what he's writing. So there are different ways in terms of the content, as you were speaking of. The content depends on where you submit to. If you have something that is politically driven or peace-oriented, let's just say, then you would submit to magazines that have something like that in terms of their specific theme. And that will be a benefit, and you'll reach the right audience, because not everybody wants to read that. So you have to think of the audience who is going to be reading your poetry, and that way it just saves you some time and some, you know, so you're not feeling so rejected when your poems aren't accepted. Because sometimes when poems aren't accepted and we feel rejected, then we get all upset and think we're no good. And that doesn't mean that if your poetry isn't accepted, that doesn't mean it isn't good. It just means it didn't resonate with either the theme or the person who was judging it, or maybe they had too many poems that sounded the same, so they were looking for a variation. So I hope that helps. If anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer later.
Yeah, thanks. Is there any question about it?
I have a comment in general on the subject.
Okay, so on this thing, is there anyone has any question?
I'll touch upon
Okay,
it.
so all right, sure. Monisa. And Monisa, please also mention the event you said about Faisal.
Okay, and I think we have 15 more minutes.
Sorry, I just want to make sure that it's not a criticism, but just want to make sure the reality. If we are listening as if nothing is happening in building bridges in Canada on the Pakistani front. So I went through the history of the Ontario Poetry Society. I was sad to see that in none of your events, or very little of your events, the writers from the other communities, the others, like the South Asian others were invited. Vice versa, M.D. Basanji, who is one of the most well-known writers in Canada, Order of Canada recipient, when he held his literary festival, Nusrat was there, many others were there. So we would do sessions of people of multiple languages, good people, very English section of they being there. Khalis Wales, Family Heart Writers Forum, PWA, all of us have been doing sessions with multiple language poets coming in and reading Urdu, English, and whatnot. It's not that we are just living in a vacuum. I mean, Canadian Encyclopedia of Canadian Literature has a whole section on Urdu ghazal, and in ghazal it talks about the English writers who are writing Urdu ghazals in English. So we should know. And our biggest name, Goethe, wrote a divan. It is a whole divan of ghazal. So if we do not know what's going on, then it means that we ourselves are a little ignorant of what's happening around us. That's that. Now, in Canada, Phyllis Bell, Lorna Crosby, one of the top writers, from there to Shanice John Muhammad, she published a book of ghazals. So we are all doing, but unfortunately, you mentioned glass wall, your father was a universalist. There has been and there is a glass ceiling in the Canadian publishing industry where the authors of the others cannot break into. However, recently, Nurjan Vasanji, who was running a magazine called the Toronto Literary Review, the Toronto South Asia Review, it's become a Windsor House. She has just been given an Order of Canada for promoting diversity and inclusivity, because what they did, they brought the authors of other languages and they helped publish them, because there is a close public. And of course, I didn't meet you then, but I was at your event in the Eden Literary Festival, because the founder, Connie, was one of my mentors and my friend at Penn Canada. So I heard you there. So we are going all around as ourselves, like a Salik or a traveler, to find the truth. But there are challenges, and those challenges, Ontario Poetry Society has to themselves go out and seek people, now that you heard today, because all of these people here have been contributing in this or that way.
So they're publishing, they're writing, they're doing things. It's not just there's a vacuum and nothing is happening. So we should know that something is happening and efforts have been made on all fronts and all languages. Thank you.
Thank you. Any comments or shall I?
Sure, I can comment.
Oh, okay.
So this weekend, tomorrow, I'm going to be at the Durham, over on Sally Farm. Yeah, the
Pickering Town Center.
Thank you. So I'm going to be there discussing, have a little bit, trying to promote poetry in the Durham region. So poetry, the Ontario Poetry Society, they have several branches throughout Ontario, and so they're trying to increase membership and opportunities for people. We have a number of members that are of different nationalities. I met the gentleman, Mr. Nicolashman, and he's the one who actually translated my poem, a couple of my poems from English into Farsi. And so there are opportunities, but just putting the Ontario Poetry Society aside for a minute, we have to seek them out. They're not going to just come to us. We have to seek them out. There's many organizations out there, not just the Ontario Poetry Society, because it's a pretty small organization. It's not a huge membership, right? So, but we have to seek out opportunities, like you're doing here today, bridging, as Patrick would say, bridging nationalities and looking for ways to come together. And so the suggestions that I made about going online, exposing yourself to different opportunities, that's how you're going to get more interaction and more experience and get your poetry known. It's very important, as much as possible, for you to try to get online, as I said, but also try to get publications that are online. Now, online publications only last online for so long, because sooner or later those those publishers are going to close down. Nothing on the internet is there necessarily forever, and if it is, it's sometimes difficult to find. But it is a way, if you get your stuff published online, for people to read your poetry and get exposed to seeing it in dual languages. I've had published like Spanish, Italian, Farsi, so there's different opportunities for us to, like I said, to bridge our nationalities and to have that opportunity to do the translation. So if you are going online, you're able to find different organizations that do it. It's vital that it be shared among yourselves so that other people know, because one of us could know something, but then somebody else doesn't know something. So I've taken over this year dealing Durham region, and I'm happy to sit down with anyone and talk about it further. And Patrick's part of the Ontario Poetry Society as well. So there are opportunities to bridge languages and nationalities together. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we come to the conclusion, I would say let's think about maybe we can do some combined poetry sessions where we have poets from both English and Urdu circles. We can present both, and maybe translation. Really, that would be especially haiku, right? We can have haiku in Urdu and English and translations, and probably that could help us move forward as well. So thanks for that. Now, in the end, if there is nothing else, I would like to request. Yeah.
There was one announcement.
Oh yeah, the announcement. Yeah.
So I'll do it in Urdu and then in English. So for everyone, 19 जनवरी को पाकिस्तान के बहुत ही मारूफ शायर और राइटर सरमद सहबाई, जो मशहूर तरीन पाकिस्तान के राइटर्स में से, करंट लिविंग राइटर्स में से हैं, तो उनकी इंग्लिश किताब आई है पहली दफा, इंग्लिश नॉवल द ब्लेस्ड कर्स। तो उसकी रुनुमाई जो है वो 19 जनवरी को मिसिसागा में लिविंग आर्ट सेंटर में होगी। We will be sending information, but this is a good opportunity to let you know. So the announcement is that the iconic Pakistani writer Sarma Sabai has written his first debut English novel, The Blessed Curse, and the book launch will take place in Mississauga on 19th of January at 3 p.m. It's a free event, so everybody can come. We'll be distributing the information. Hopefully it will go around through Faisal and friends. So I urge all of you to come and be there. Thank you.
And I would request Patrick to read some of your poems for us. It would be great to hear.
How many would you like?
Well, maybe 2, 3, whatever you like.
Okay.
Thank you. Especially father and daughter, right?
Father and daughter?
Like Faisal said.
Thank you. I'll stand up if that's okay. First of all, as I said, I am beyond, as a person, see how many people have come here. Your energy, whether you've spoken or not, but being here is fabulous, it's warm, it's inviting. And especially, it's very powerful what's happening here. To come and listen to our heart and all your voices and say, look, we want to get out into the mainstream. We want to, people are here, our lovely poems are fascinating, warm, thoughtful, mind-opening, heart-opening poetry that you write, because I've read the translations and I hear your voices. So I just wanted to speak to that and to your lovely energy to be here and support Faisal and all of your own community. My daughter, I mentioned earlier, was at Sick Kids, and she was there for a couple of years, and we got invited, Emma and myself, to go to this place that helped kids touched by cancer. So she was asked, and I was asked, to speak in downtown Toronto, 1,700 people, for a charity event for Cancer for Kids. I saw a spider. I run a bit, so I was out one morning, and I saw this little spider, or the thread, going from one bush to another, about 2 or 3 feet away. And it's cold, rainy, and windy. And I said, what's your life all about? Where are you off to, little spider? What are you up to? And so, when I read this, the 1,700 people, it's about overcoming fear and doubt, and how do we go on in life, whatever your situation be. The spider, fragile ark caught in a vacant sky. I must move out from the home port, but to where? And what is this whisper that comes from within, that whooshes its bellows again and again? What's out there? What's on the other side? And if I go, will they accept me? Will I fit in? Or if I'm caught in the morning rains and listen to that wind howl? Besides, I only have 7 legs. Still, I must go. Do I know to where I am going? Am I even halfway to a destination unknown? Maybe I should turn back again. No. Does it matter to where I am going? Does it matter how far I have gone? For I have decided not to stay in this web, and I have decided not to bury my head, for I am a spider. And the spider must spy, and I am a spider, and the spider must spin. Does it matter if I get blown away in that wind? No, for I am still a spider, and I will cast away again and again and again.
Very nice.
Father and daughter. It could be mom and daughter, mom and son, dad and son, and so on, right? It's real, it's life, and happens to all of us in one way or another. It happens to all of us one way or another. Father and daughter, the joy of rain splashes about her as she plays in the puddles at his feet. Sea mist wades into golden tresses. Warm hands tickle his little petite. She stands on stones and stares up at him as he lulls with the evening tide. No ogre could come to trample here. A lion sleeps by her side. Snowy blankets tucked away, robins trill the pine. A cupid claims Papa's pearl, a teardrops in the wine. Little voices scamper past, tiny shoes adorn the mantle. Midnight skies fade away on fairy wings and starry candles. Sky full of molten sun hides the tempest in the bay. From the depths a stranger howls. It's come to steal the wind away. Waves wander the rugged shoreline, grinding stone into sand. Again he strays into the night. Fog is crawling across the land. A shadow lingers on the bluff as the skin of the moon falls pale. Her cello cries out to his soul, foundering in the gale. Now lullaby visits soothe the strings as a storm of faces comes calling, like driftwood on the beach heaved out into the mauling. Moody cloud in the window creeping up along the coast. In her arms he softly sings as he sails away on the ship of ghosts. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Of course.
Oops. That's mine.
Thank you so much. It was great. Thank you everyone who attended today. And first of all, we were a bit worried whether we are doing this for the first time in Ajax. We always did our programs in Mississauga, and people were saying, well, it's too far, Ajax is too far, well, I live in Ajax. Okay. So yeah, I was going too far. But our other friends, they are even from Milton and Mississauga and Brampton, our members. So one of our members is from actually Buffalo, Dr. Hamilton. So I'm so thankful to everyone who came here to attend this event, to bless us with your presence. And thank you, Patrick, and thank you, Lisa, for bringing friends and all of those who participated in the discussion. And I hope this is not the last time. This is not the first time. I mean, although Arbab-e-Qalam did it for the first time, but we know that, like Munir Saab said, there are many things that have happened in the past. Wali Aram Shai a lot of regarding the cross-pollination. And so we will inshallah keep doing these things. And the back, we still have samosas left, I think. No, I think they are. Nobody will remember to look at the tray. And there's tea, and there's coffee, and let's have another one. Thank you very much.